So we're going to be talking about this little guy, right, who kind of stands out from the pack, right? And as Kathy and I were talking just before we went on air, that some of the people we work with, we're not quite sure they should be diagnosed with Asperger syndrome, or maybe they're really not on the autism spectrum. And it's so respectful to the client to just appreciate who that client is, regardless of whether the label is there and you're sure of it or you're not so sure. But you see these unusual behaviors, kind of quirky, but there's room in our society for quirky. At least we would like to think so, all right? So let's take a look at what happens to this penguin as he represents the clients we work with. And I'm making any assumption that if you're taking this course, that you were either already working with adults who have these issues, or you're curious about how might we look at this. It's so common, isn't it, that the adult clients have obviously the social communication issues and social cueing issues. That's pretty obvious to us. But they also come with sensory issues, don't they? Either hypersensitive to sound and visual input and to touch, etc., and even to taste and smell as well. Many of them also have depression, anxiety, and kind of hard to know whether it's the sensory issues which then led to the anxiety issues, or the reverse. And maybe we'll never know, but the important point is that we can help address that, even though we here right now in this room happen to be speech-language pathologists and audiologists. The other element that I have noticed, and maybe you have too, is that these folks have very limited goal-setting abilities. It's really hard for them to feel what I call the fire in the belly, to want to create something or do something or to make something happen in their own lives. If they do set some goals, and usually with the help of maybe one of us or other folks in their lives, the follow-through is difficult. So as you see when we get to another part of the program, we have some colleagues here today who have ways of addressing some of these issues in folks who operate in maybe some pretty standard, typical ways in the community, and I see relevance for our crowd. So let's move on to this next part. See if these are the same people whom you know. So I'm going to tell you some things about this 23-year-old male who came into my practice a year and a half ago with his parents. Both parents came to the first few visits. Very protective people. Clearly, the young man demonstrated in a number of ways rather out of control behavior, and something where parents really needed to be there to help monitor his behavior and pull him back. His self-regulation, both about what he eats and how much he eats, and just everything about his life needed to be regulated. This is a young man who, as a youngster, along with his family, dealt with lead poisoning in a home they had moved to. And beyond that, then developed signs of autism. So in a pure form, and we may never know, was the autism there before? Did the lead poisoning just tip the balance? But at any rate, the important thing is we're seeing this young man with these kind of behaviors. What was said to me immediately, both by this young man and his folks, is that he has auditory processing difficulties and he can't pay attention. They know he has ADD, and maybe that's been diagnosed, but they know he has auditory processing. So when parents say that to me, maybe when they say it to you too, you have a sense what they're getting at is this person doesn't listen well. they may say, I don't think he hears well, and we definitely need to check that out. But really, they're talking about something about listening not coming together.